Hey there, educators of Lehigh and Carbon counties. Welcome to the Determined to Differentiate series that the CNI staff at the IU 21 are launching on scheduled days throughout the month of January. My name is Kelli Tremba, and today I will be sharing a session on differentiation in a whole group setting, particularly in the challenging environment of online learning. I'm assuming that most of the teachers tuned in today are either using Zoom or Google Meet in order to virtually meet with their students. One situation that I just want to share, which is really easy, something you're probably already doing, is if you want to have a community building or you want to get all of your students participating, you want to know that they're logged in and they're engaged, you can just simply post a Feel Good Friday kind of message, asking them to, as I have an example here, share one thing you are feeling pretty good about right now. You can ask them even, do you have a picture in your phone, depending on the age level that you're presenting to. Notice at the bottom, I have the little chat icon, I have the video icon, as well as the microphone. So you can ask your students to share one good thing that they're feeling pretty good about right now. They can either put it in the chat, they can share their video if they're so inclined to show their face, and perhaps write it down on a piece of paper and hold up the paper. They can obviously have an object that they share with you, and of course they can also unmute. Providing students with choice is just going to give them the opportunity to choose the means in which they are most comfortable presenting their particular item. I know it seems simple, but we're, again, providing a differentiated choice for all of our students to be engaged. I don't know if you've ever used Jamboard before, but I'm going to showcase two Google tools in this training, one being Google Jamboard and the other being Google Slides, for the many different ways you can engage a whole group. So what I have on the screen here, I'm going to demonstrate how to use Jamboard in a brainstorming format, in a community building situation, to apply content, check for understanding, as well as for breakout group, not only creation, but also collaboration. In order to do that, I'm actually going to go live to Jamboard, where I have, as you can see up here, 9 boards awaiting this presentation. So here you can see on slide 1 of the Jamboard, I'm going to demonstrate just how we could do that Feel Good Friday community building example in the form of Jamboard. As you can see here, I have at the top, Feel Good Friday, share one thing you are feeling pretty good about right now. I have 2 examples here. One posted, offered, I got an A on my Spanish test. Another one, I finally understand quadratic equations. Just to show you how easy this is, over here on the left-hand side, you have a whole bunch of tools, and I'm going to click on the one that looks like a little Post-it note. Students can choose what color they prefer, and they can, I'm actually going to put in here, the sun is shining, because the sun is finally shining after many days of gray. So as you can see here, once I have my Post-it on the board, I can move it around. You will have to share this with your students, and that anyone who has the link or anyone within your district can edit. If you don't give them editing capabilities, they will not be able to contribute to the board. They can go back and forth from slide to slide as they wish, but of course you will ask them to go to the second slide when you're ready to go to the second slide, and so forth, so on and so forth. So again, this is a community building. Students can contribute as many Post-its as they want. You could also move them around, categorize them, and use that how you wish. The second example I have here, again, is using sticky notes in, for example, a brainstorming example, where students you might ask them to brainstorm, share what you know about World War II. So they might, again, choose a sticky note. I know Pearl Harbor was attacked. So that's just one tidbit of information that I know. You can ask students to put multiple on there. You can ask them to make events in green if they know about events, people in yellow, and places or countries in blue. So you can categorize that as you wish. But again, students can put multiple sticky notes on there, and then you can use it for, pre-assessment knowledge. You can use it to kind of inform how your instruction is going to go for the day. But it's a really nice live way to do brainstorming. I have found in delivering professional development, it's simply to teachers, that a lot of times there is some pause in teachers participating when you ask them to put something in the chat because their name is attached to it, or to unmute, or to show their video and share out loud. But because Jamboard allows a little bit more anonymity, I think that students might be more pressed to engage and more inclined to engage, because they are more likely to take a risk when they when it's unfamiliar who is going to be, when their name is not attached to it, I should say. Okay, another example, and I just picked Avengers characters. However, you could choose characters from a novel. You could choose any kind of category from your content area, but you can ask students with which Avenger can you most relate and why. This could be a great assessment practice piece where you have 4 characters or you have 4 quotes, and you ask a student to identify, which quote resonates most with them, which character they can relate to. Again, they can use a Post-it note, or there is also an opportunity to include a text box. So for example, I might include a text box here. I relate to the Hulk because, and then of course I can put in my information. As you can see, if everyone's using text boxes, it's going to get fairly crowded. So you might encourage students to use a sticky note here, but I did want to just share with you an example of how students could also use a text box. Another example that I have here for Jamboard is using, applying knowledge to content areas. So for example, rate your level of understanding surrounding the digestive system. We're checking for understanding here. So I might put my name over here where the students' bare feet are. I might go over here where I have toddler shoes on, hiking shoes where I'm kind of still trudging through, and then of course the last one, running shoes. So this would be a nice way to assess your class to see how they're feeling about the digestive system or any content area. It could also from there help you to create groups, perhaps revisit the information with certain individuals, and encourage other individuals to move on to the next progression in the content area. So from there, I can grab all of the people and say, all right, so for all of you who went to the baby feet here, I'd like you to go to Jamboard slide number 5. And, you could have a task waiting for them there. It might be a review activity. Same thing with breakout room 2 or group 2. You're going to have them, the toddler shoes, go to slide 6. Similarly, with the hiking boot group, you can have them again come to this particular slide and they can engage in activity there. And then finally, you might have an enrichment activity for those students who have chosen to select the running shoes. I just want to show you how easy it is to create a new slide. So here I am at slide 9, and all I'm doing is I just continue to click on this arrow, create a frame. I'm not sure how many of you have ever interacted with Jamboard, but it's a really great tool and super easy for not only you, the teacher, to use, but also for your students. At this time, I just want to give you 1 minute to kind of process. I know I just went through a lot fairly quickly, so I want to give you 1 minute to just process the different examples that I shared with you using Jamboard in the areas of brainstorming, community building, content application, checking for understanding, and using that check for understanding to inform a breakout group creation and how students could collaborate using Jamboard. So hopefully you were all able to take a minute just to do a little processing, perhaps take a few notes based on some of the examples that I shared. And I just want to pause for a moment, and in the spirit of processing time, I would like you to think about how you rate yourself and what your commitment to providing processing time during live instruction is. If I was teaching this session live, I would ask you to engage in a whole group way, where I would ask my students or my teachers, my participants to, if they wouldn't mind sharing their video for just a moment and giving me either a thumbs up, a thumbs in the middle, or a thumbs down, just to simply assess yourself and share with me your current commitment level to providing processing time. Processing time is really important for students, especially in this environment. Um, we often have students write things down, and even in professional developments, a lot of times teachers are writing things down that are either on a slide deck or being shared. And I just would like to make sure that I point out that writing cannot happen simultaneously when the expectation to listen and think is present. So if we are sharing new information with our students and they're listening and they're trying to think and they're also writing it down, it's very, very challenging. Research shows that writing, and of course in many of our cases now typing things down, it helps to keep students engaged, it helps students internalize their learning, makes thinking visible, but again, it does require some processing time. So I just want to encourage you, particularly in this online environment when we're sharing, let's give our students a minute, just take a moment. I'd like you to process that, put any questions in the chat, write down, the most important thing or that you just heard. So giving them time to process is really important. So before I moved on to the next area of items that I was going to share with you, I wanted to make sure that I was practicing what I preached in giving you some processing time myself. Okay, so I'm going to now move on and share with you again a few more whole group engagement strategies, but ones that are providing differentiation. So of course there's tons of examples of differentiation, but because we're only doing these in half-hour segments, I had to be pretty selective. And I figure most of the participants have access to Google and are using Google regularly. So for that reason, I chose to demonstrate a fairly newly popular tool, which was Google Jamboard. And now something I'm going to tap into is is Google Slides, which most of you are probably already super familiar with, but just want to kind of enlighten you with some perhaps new and different ways that you can use Google Slides other than just for presenting mode. So I am going to demo an example of each of these. So I'm going to share some examples of, just using Google Slides for live engagement. Also for independent copies, distributing independent copies of slides for note-taking reasons. Also independent copies of slides for interaction. And finally, differentiated templates and collaboration. So this is an example of using a Google Slides deck, I'll call it, for live engagement. So on this, it just says brainstorm. So if you, just very similar to the way that I used Google Jamboard, where you asked a question and students are able to brainstorm on there using the post-it notes, you can use Google Slides in that way as well. As you can see over here on the left, all the Google Slides are going to be numbered. So if you have a smaller group of students, 1 to 30, you can certainly create 30 slides that are identical. And then if your students are numbered, have them go to that particular number. So for example, if I am student number 4, I will click on slide number 4, and whatever it is that you've asked me to brainstorm, and maybe it's just one word, students can use this as like a whiteboard as well, in addition to a brainstorm. So for example, if we're doing a vocabulary lesson and the teacher has asked, which of the vocabulary words is representing the ability to stretch easily. And I'm just coming up with, off the top of my head, flexibility. So if I had a list of vocabulary words, and this was my answer, and I was using this in the form of a brainstorm or whiteboard opportunity. If I'm a teacher, of course I can scroll through like this, but I can also put this in grid view, and now I can see many at a time. So I can say, oh yeah, student number 4, nice job. So it's just a nice, easy way to have students being engaged, and it is an accountability piece where obviously if you're going to see, if slide 17 is blank and we're back in the grid view, you're calling out like, hey, slide 17, student number 17, I'm still waiting for your answer. So it's a nice way to, engage the whole group in a way that it also allows students to, work at their own pace and, sometimes see what other students are writing in order to jog their ideas as well. So that's one way. Another way is using Google Slides for note taking. So we can push out templates to students. So just, if we were doing like a show and tell activity, what is the most beautiful sight you have ever seen? You can see here, once again, we can distribute these slides to our students based on number, or you could even put their name here. So rather than it saying name, you could actually type their name, and then they have to find the slide with their particular name on it. Okay, so for example, this is the slide that is the instructions. However, I can move on to number 2, and then my students would have to complete this template. I can provide as much or as little information. Of course, this is a bell ringer kind of activity, community building kind of activity. However, you could have in here, again, the name and, students, graphic organizers, any kind of skeletal organizer, and you can provide for your students either a choice that they choose the skeletal organizer or the visual organizer of their choice, or you can identify which one you would like them to record their learnings on based on where you put their name. So you can have templates on here that are very supportive or less supportive. And I'll show you another example of that in just a moment. This is another great activity. So if we want to distribute copies of slide presentations to students, here's an example of one to assess prior knowledge. It's in the form of a word sort. This particular one, I made a force copy so that when a student would open this, it would require them to to make their own copy so they could move things around. So just some examples of what students could do with this. You can see that there's a list of words. These are all ELA words, but things that I have presented or offered to students, you can, so they have a choice, categorize into clusters or rows. They can color code, they can create new slides by category, and they again have the choice of sorting by meaning, known or unknown, active, passive, part of speech. So here we have the word theme. So, we could, again, some of the choices, we could color code that. So, that might be yellow, and then we're going to color code other ones and put all the yellow ones together. We can, categorize these in multiple different ways. Students are able to move these around if they want to put all of them into, corners based on a particular category, or they can create their own slides and, they can make this their, this might be a category of plot. And then, of course, they would have to go back, copy and paste some of the different, let's see, conflict would be one that I would definitely want to put over here with plot, so they can create new slides. So again, this is a great opportunity for them to not only have choice, but to demonstrate their level of acquisition of this particular content area. Okay, so one more that I'm going to share is just if you wanted to create slides that are differentiated in terms of templates in order for students to be engaged independently or collaboratively. So this final example has to do with the learning pyramid. So if the content that I was trying to teach my participants is the learning pyramid, I may have certain students that I will direct to the pink slide. So I might say, these 3 students, I want you to go to the pink slides, or these 9 students, I would like you to distribute yourselves in threes. 3 of you will be on each pink slide. As you can see here, the pink slides are a little bit more supported than the yellow slides. So in the yellow slides, I took away, as you can see, the words passive and active, as well as the triangle. And then if I move down to the blue slides have absolutely no support on them whatsoever. So in this way, all of the students are working on the same content. However, they are working at a level that's appropriate for them. And it has been differentiated within this whole group situation. Okay, so you can see here, this is supposed to say 2. Group 1 has the maximum amount of support. Group 2, less support. Group 3, no support at all. And group 4, this is a accelerated group, actually, where we would be doing a compacting lesson. We would be assuming that they know that and moving on. And that is where the teacher could be working in a different area or different breakout room with that particular group. So once again, and I know we're getting to the end of the half hour here, if we are not already, I'm just going to share 1 minute for you to process and think about some of the examples that I just shared with you to represent live engagement, independent copies for note taking, for interaction, and as well as using Google Slides for differentiated templates and collaboration. So I know that was a lot of information in a really brief amount of time. I am available at any and all times for all of our educators here in the Lehigh and Carbon counties. For those of you who know me, I think know that I'm very approachable and I'm willing to help you. But if I don't know that you need help, I can't help you. So my email's on the screen. It's Tremba K at, it should say cliu.org. So I do apologize for that. And feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you for attending this session on whole group engagement. And if you are interested in attaining Act 48 credits, we do have a link on the CLIU PD Ready webpage that you can certainly access. This deck will also be available on the YouTube page that we are publishing all of these decks on. And these recordings on. So again, feel free to reach out to me. I will make sure that my email is accessible to all you. And if there's any questions on any of the information that I shared with you today, I certainly am willing to help you out, do one-on-ones, Zoom sessions with you in order to better support you. I hope you got some great ideas today. Be safe, take care, and hope to see you back at the next launch, which is differentiation with small group engagement on the 14th. Thanks, guys.